Imagine a world where the supply of oil wasn't reliant on finding new deposits of dead dinosaurs. Instead, what if scientists promised you that it could be produced by humans from a renewable resource that is commonly found all around the Earth? In fact, this resource can be found anywhere the most common substance on the surface of the Earth is and where sunlight is. I am, of course, talking about water, and the renewable resource is algae.
Algae biofuel is a fuel source made from algae and cyanobacteria. These microorganisms utilize carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and convert it into oils, or lipids, and biomass, or carbohydrates, through photosynthesis.
Now, how did scientists and policymakers get interested in this technology? It all goes back to two oil supply shocks in the 1970s, one in 73 and another in 79. In 1973, Arab oil exporters imposed an embargo on the US for supporting Israel in a war and cut production, causing oil prices to climb nearly fourfold over the course of 3 months. In 1979, the Shah of Iran was deposed in a revolution, causing oil production to fall dramatically in Iran, and OPEC further cut oil production to raise prices, with the result that oil prices more than doubled within a year.
Gas supplies ran low, long lines began to form at gas stations, and some states started rationing gas based on car license plates. In response, the U.S. Department of Energy was created and launched a program in 1978 to develop algae-based biofuels as a means of reducing dependence on foreign oil.
So what is the point in investing in and developing this technology? The production of algae biofuels would advance U.S. national security interests by ensuring an adequate supply of fuel for military and economic purposes, and by undercutting geopolitical rival petrostates that are reliant on oil income to finance conflicts. It would also further the interest of achieving energy independence, that is, producing enough energy to meet domestic demand, helping us avoid the sorts of oil supply shocks that we saw in the 1970s. However, the US is currently much more energy independent than in prior decades. The US now produces more fossil fuels than it even consumes each year.
This technology would also impact the U.S. economy, producing both winners and losers. Because algae and cyanobacteria take up atmospheric carbon dioxide while they are growing, this technology also offers the potential to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions by offsetting emissions resulting from its combustion. Other advantages of algae as a feedstock for a fuel include algae's rapid growth rate and the reality that algae can grow in a variety of conditions and places, ranging from salt and freshwater to non-arable land using wastewater.
The US government has been deeply involved in developing this technology. While other agencies, such as the National Science Foundation, have played a role, the U.S. Department of Energy has led the way by providing funding and conducting research, including through the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, providing roadmaps, and undertaking reviews of the technology and challenges associated with achieving cost-effective production. Many universities, such as Arizona State University and George August University in Germany, have been actively conducting research in this area. In addition, energy and biotechnology companies, ranging from oil majors such as Exxon and Chevron to Bill Gates' Breakthrough Energy and Viridis, have been heavily involved in funding or conducting research and development into and commercializing algae biofuel. Even airlines like Japan Airlines have committed resources to fund research and have used it to power flights. Nonprofits have also played a role by organizing and providing a way to transmit knowledge among stakeholders.
While such efforts have led to progress, the overall development of the technology has been relatively slow and expensive as researchers have worked to achieve commercial viability. Algae biofuel has struggled to compete with cheaper fossil fuels, which are abundant, easier to turn into fuels, and sometimes heavily subsidized. The primary challenge has been engineering a strain of algae through genetic modification that can produce high enough levels of lipids quickly enough and at the scale required to be commercially viable. Another problem is the increasing adoption of another technology, electric vehicles. The electrification of ground transportation is expected to reduce the demand and the price for liquid fuels, making it difficult to become cost competitive.
Ever since the 1970s, when the government began committing significant resources to researching and developing algae biofuels, there has been a hope and an expectation that funding and research would soon yield a viable alternative to oil. However, achieving commercial viability has been a challenge in the decades that followed, causing public and private sector funders of algae biofuel research to drop out along the way. For example, after funding algae biofuel research for nearly 2 decades, the U.S. Department of Energy discontinued its research program for a time in 1996 when it realized that this technology would not be cost competitive with oil in the near future. Similarly, the oil majors, such as Exxon, have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on research before ultimately dropping out.
The seeming consensus among algae researchers is that commercializing algae biofuel will still require billions of dollars more and considerably more time as researchers attempt to overcome algae's biological limitations.
Even after nearly 50 years of research and development, some current estimates suggest that the technology is still a decade or two away from being able to produce sufficient fuel to meet our energy needs and to do so cost-effectively.
We interviewed John McGowen, a director and leading researcher at the Arizona Center for Algae Technology and Innovation at ASU. Here's his prediction.
So my name is John McGowen. I'm the Director of Operations for the Arizona Center for Algae Technology Innovation. And I've been with AzCATI since its inception in 2010. To see a reasonable dent, where you have a meaningful contribution, from a biofuel, energy product from algae is decades.
It's becoming clear that this isn't a 100-meter dash. Instead, it's going to be a marathon. If you're interested in learning more, see our resources below or watch the videos we've linked here.